Hello and welcome to episode number 96 of the RDO podcast with the boys, Jason and Alex Von Cannell. I'm back, baby. I'm back. I've actually been able to fit it in this week, which has been nice. And something a little bit wild happened on the way up, which I think is all connected to a whole bunch of things that have happened to me lately. And I think someone's out to get me.
Go.
So on the way up here, I stopped at the service station to get some fuel. And as I'm filling up fuel, butcher birds, those little black and white birds, super aggressive, swooped me and tried to rip my eye out. Like literally, I'm facing the meter with my my right hand was holding the fuel pump. I'm like watching the meter. It's literally flown from behind me. I felt something touch the back of my head, so it must have been one of its claws. And I've just at the last minute closed my eyes, and I've literally felt its other claw reach around and scratch my eyelid, and it's like flown off. Tried to rip my eye out.
Your face does look like a bird's nest of a weaker bird.
Thanks.
So it could be that.
Perhaps, could be. But I feel like someone's out to get me at the moment, and it's either Mother Nature, which might be because I do landscaping now, so I'm doing a lot of, cutting grass.
God's work.
Cutting down trees, destruction of Mother Nature. Like, literally there was a dead tree stump at work, not this week, but the week before, that I was trying to pull out because it was all loose and it was just in the garden trying to pull it out. Anyway, I'm rocking it back and forth. I'm going to pull it up, and a fucking snake pokes out from underneath it. Don't know what it was, not hanging around to find out. Right. That stump's still in there. I'll get it next week maybe.
Yeah.
So there's a butcher bird trying to take me out my eye. There's a snake trying to bite my hands. I've had 3 ticks in the last 2 weeks.
Ooh.
Yeah, just grass ticks.
Did you let them get deep?
One got deep. So this is fucked, right? Not only are they out to get me, but it's like physically and psychologically at the same time. Because ticks, you'll often find them in like warm, moist areas, right?
Which is your entire body.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
So one of them I found in my armpit.
Yep.
Fair enough. One was actually on my shoulder. That was one that hadn't really gone in yet. Because obviously...
Too staunch.
Yeah, crawling around trying to find a good spot. The third one, guess what the third one was?
Ball bag.
Gooch. Similar area,
Taint.
but not quite.
Freckle.
Mm-mm.
Perineum.
No.
Where?
It's in my undergut.
Oh.
Yeah, my undergut. So if you guys don't know what an undergut is, when you're sitting down and your gut hangs over and there's like a little crease underneath it, that's my undergut. So I got fat shamed by nature too while they were at it. So psychologically trying to fuck with me as well.
Yeah.
Just when you think you're starting to get into better shape and then your tick goes and jabs itself into your undergut, thinking like, oh, this is a nice warm, moist place. It's very dark in here. I'll never get found.
And there's zero line of sight between me and the
what a
and the host.
So yeah, they had like 3 ticks, potential snake encounter, butcher bird trying to rip my eye out. Just thought I was buying chicken nuggets out of the Bay Marie at the servo. Have a little snacky poo on the way up here.
There's your mistake right there.
Well, yeah, thought they were chicken nuggets. No, macaroni and cheese balls, dressed up like chicken nuggets. Like everything's out to get me at the moment. So it's either Mother Nature.
It's not any of that. I can tell exactly what it is.
What is it?
That's life choices. You got attacked by nature after you selected to work in nature. I'm not attacked by nature. I do not work with nature.
Doesn't explain the butcher bird of the servo.
You ran the gauntlet. You gambled with a servo Bay Marie. You get petrol from the service station. That's it. Nothing else.
No.
Maybe a drink. Canned drink.
You get fuel.
Yeah, fuel.
Fuel for your car. Fuel for the big dog. That's why I've got this sugar-free guarana thing, because it's Saturday afternoon and Daddy's a little tired after the week that he's had.
Well, I'm a little tired too, because I had my birthday lunch on
happy
Thursday,
birthday, dude.
thank you, and got absolutely sharp-faced, which is unlike me, but I was just with the boys and got on the red wines and didn't stop, but it was good. I was in bed by 6 p.m.
Yeah, but what happened before you went to bed? So when Alex saying he was sharp-faced, like he was sharp-faced.
Because it's not like me. I'm like a 1 or 2 drink buzz.
Yeah. You had like 5 bottles of red wine.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't see anymore.
Yeah. Well, you FaceTime called me on the way home. You remember that?
Yeah, I don't know how I could see the...
Right. So I knew that you were pissed when, as you were speaking, I can't remember what we were talking about. A lot of it was just garbage.
Can imagine.
But at some point, you referred to yourself as being 95 kilos. And I was like, oh, this cunt's maggot. Like, he's gone. I was like, what did you say? And you're like, I'm like, you just said you were 95 kilos.
So maybe I'd gone back in time.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years back in time.
Maybe you drank yourself into the past.
But I ended up finding one of those, because I walked from Milton to St. Lucia, which is...
You sound like you could use a walk.
Yeah, I got shin splints today. But I've also got some other wounds too, because I ended up finding one of those electric scooters. Had to, downloaded the app, had it all set up, and I only had one incident on it, but it was, effectively going down a hill, speed wobbles, drop the front wheel to the edge of
on the pathway.
Yeah. And there was cars everywhere, and they would have seen this 105 kilo guy roll 3 or 4 times.
So you said you got some bruises, right?
I've got the bruises you can't see, but the grazes you can.
Yeah. And you want to show them?
No, I can't get it out. I can't get it out. But
Fair enough.
I'm in a bit of pain. I can feel it because
that's what 36 feels like, man.
36, 105 kilos. You're not supposed to be hitting the ground at pace.
On a downhill section of scooter.
They're just not supposed to be that way.
But at least I can imagine when you hit the ground, you would have been very relaxed. Your body would have been very floppy.
Oh yeah,
which they do say is way better for you. Because if you tense up is when you break stuff.
I'm surprised I didn't break anything because I had not on myself, obviously.
You mean break the world?
No,
what did you crash into?
No, grass. It was grass, but I had my glasses in a glasses case latched onto my belt loop on the side that I hit.
Yeah,
survived.
Wasn't there a tsunami in the Philippines 3 hours later?
Well, they say a butterfly flaps its wings, and I hit the deck.
It was good. Speaking of which, so I actually owe you something because you won a couple of bets.
Okay.
And by the sounds of it, you could use coffee. And I've got a black coffee can here somewhere, if I can get it out. So, there you go.
Thank you. What's this one for? I've forgotten what this one's for.
That's because Labor won the election. So we bet a black coffee can. I said that the Liberals would win the election, and you said Labor would. And so that black coffee can is your winnings.
Yeah.
So congratulations, mate.
Cheers.
Cheers to that. We can talk about that today. Also, if anyone wants to stick around for a little bit later on, I've got something for Conspiracy Corner for later too.
Ooh, nice. And
also, you won this as well, which I have to present to you on the podcast, so there's video proof of it.
Thanks.
So Alex and I had a bet the other weekend, which in hindsight for me was a really dumb time to do it.
No, it wasn't a dumb time. It was a dumb bet. It's always going to be a dumb bet. I'll always win that bet.
Maybe.
Thank you.
We could do it again sometime later in the year.
That is great. And if Suntory wants to sponsor us, this is one of my favourite whiskies ever. It's actually not that expensive.
$67 a Dan Murphy's at the moment.
$67, and it is up there with because that lark is from Tasmania is amazing.
Yep.
That's $180.
Yeah.
You get a similar experience out of that, so I can highly recommend that.
Yeah, I was trying to find you a 2-litre bottle of LA Ice to mix it with, but I couldn't find you one.
Yeah.
So we had a bet the other weekend, which was Magic Round on the NRL. So it's probably 2-3 weeks ago now.
Yeah.
And essentially what the bet was who out of the two of us using our investment strategies could make more money in 3 days, so Friday night to Sunday night, out of $50. And my investment strategy was sports bet and betting on the NRL, and your investment strategy was the crypto market.
Yeah.
Which had tanked just prior.
Hard
out.
Yeah.
So...
Is that why you felt confident?
No. Honestly, I felt confident because in the weeks prior, I'd gone really well on the punt. So I was coming in with good form.
Yeah.
I had good form. The problem was, I was talking shit at you about it pre-bet without thinking that it was Magic Round for the NRL. Now, the reason why that's significant is, there was 2 main reasons. Number one, we had cyclonic conditions up here for the whole weekend.
Yeah.
So... Normally, if I bet on games, I normally do same game multis, and this is my system. I pick a couple of anytime try scorers that I think are sure things. Everything's a sure thing when you punt. I usually pick the line. So, do you know what picking the line is?
No.
So let's say you've got a game where you've got the favourite and you've got the underdog.
Right.
And the favourite is a massive favourite. What the line will be so it might be the favourite to win if you take, say, 15 points off their score.
Oh,
So it gives the other team like a 15-point head start.
Right.
So you can bet minus on the favourite or plus on the underdog, but it'll usually pay $1.90 either way, whichever way you go.
Okay.
So you pick the line. So usually you go line, couple of anytime try scorers.
As a multi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First team to get to 20 points.
Yeah, okay.
And usually a good thing that actually boosts up your odds way more than you'd expect, especially in a game like the NRL, is to bet neither team to score 40 points or more. Because it hasn't really happened that much this year. So anyway, the problem with Magic Round, cyclonic conditions,
right.
Everyone was looking at building arcs that weekend to get out of here. And being Magic Round, every single game was in Brisbane. So all of a sudden, every game had no home team advantage. So one of the other things that makes punting a little bit easier is oftentimes the home team does have an advantage. They're not travelling.
Yep.
Their crowd puts pressure on the referees to give them penalties, all that sort of stuff. So all those intangibles are out the window. So for me, really dumb decision. And well played to you, and hence your bottle of whiskey.
Well, my critique of your strategy, I would never have... I would never gamble, because I don't, because I like to make money, for a start. Mm-hmm. Step one. Step two, why did you go multis? I didn't
on everything.
But wouldn't it have made more sense to put a few bets on completely different things to hedge?
I did do that. What really screwed me over, because I was up on Friday night, and then Saturday, I can't remember what was happening, but Saturday was busy at home with kids. We were going somewhere. So I put a couple of bets on the Storm game before we went out. So I put them on in the afternoon. And an hour before the Storm game kicked off, their halfback, Jerome Hughes, got ruled out, injured, which screwed me on those bets. I mean, they probably wouldn't have gone up anyway, sure. But it made it a hell of a lot harder because he's really probably the most important player on that team.
But even that, though, I would have thought, because the money's not really the concern, it was winning the bet. So wouldn't you have just picked... If it was me, I would have just picked a bunch of favourites. Easy stuff. Because even if you're only going to make a 10 or 20% uptick, that's a pretty strong result compared to just... when you kept on saying the multi, every line, I just see the goal getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller.
I was up 20% on Friday night.
Yeah.
And then I was down to 0 by Sunday.
Right.
Because I had put some of those safer bets on, particularly on that Storm game. So I had put a couple of bets on the Storm game, which were just one anytime try scorer.
Yeah.
Paying like $3 or something like that. So putting $10 on it to triple your money.
Yeah.
Which they were bets which, going off the Storm's game plan when Jerome Hughes plays,
right,
had a much greater chance of coming up. Now,
but what was the Storm paying to win?
They were the underdogs that weekend.
Okay.
So, because they were playing the Panthers. So, anyway, I lost. Long story short, I lost.
But even another fundamental that, why didn't you ever keep any profit? So you're 20% up. You could have at least kept the 20 and rolled the 100 again.
Yeah. Well, I was rolling it. I was investing, bro. I was trying to win a competition.
All right. So I'll tell you what. So you went to 0, so you got the worst possible result that you could get. Okay, so what I did.
I got a minus 100% return on investment for the weekend.
Mine was actually harder to do, only because my onboard, I wanted to get, because of this phone debacle, I couldn't access 2 of my exchanges that I was going to use. Because they have my Google Authenticator code on it.
Yeah. And
now the reset from my phone, I don't know how I'm getting in there. But anyway. So I had to onboard the money to CoinSpot, which takes a 1% clip. Then I just bought US Tether on there. So it was a stable coin, which I then sent to Binance because Binance has got different features that CoinSpot doesn't have. And then now it's $33. I sold half the $33 for uni tokens.
Yeah.
And then I put the $15 of 15 US Tether and the uni tokens into a liquidity pool, knowing that there's going to be some upwards movement because we've just gone down rock bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
And
the crypto market had just tanked like that
The
week.
massive correction, yeah. And I knew that any bounce, like I knew like a 1% bounce because it was in a liquidity pool and people are going to get on it. The way it works, it's just going to yield me dividends.
Yep.
And I basically doubled, tripled my money in that time. So I cleared like $200.
And that was like...
in 3 days.
See, that was like my thought process too, to go a little bit harder on some of the multis. Because if I just bet favourites, if I was putting like, say... $20 on a game with a favourite paying $1.50, you're making $10.
Yeah.
And I knew that because crypto had tanked so hard, there was opportunity there for you to get exponential growth rather than just, you putting 50 in and staking it for the weekend.
Yeah.
And
I did think that I was going to do that. I thought, no, I'll do the riskier one.
Yeah.
Because I've only got 3 days to make a difference. But I was always thinking in the back of my head, and the other beauty too is if you are staking or even in a liquidity pool, you can pull out. It's the chances of it going to zero are nothing.
Yeah,
That's what I hate about gambling.
Yeah,
so at least the stuff that I do never goes to zero.
Yeah.
Okay, but
unless it was Luna.
Yeah, but I wouldn't be in Luna.
Yeah, because that's a gamble, right?
Yeah, and even in crypto markets, I'm not a gambler, right? So it was funny though. I had a friend reach out and say, "Hey, this friend of mine, she wants to get into crypto. What are the lessons?" And I'm like, "Right, 5 lessons. Stick to the big dogs. If you can't explain what the thing does, don't buy it."
Yeah, that's good advice for anything really in life.
If you're getting your advice from a YouTube video with lots of graphics on it, don't.
Yeah, get it from the RDO podcast.
Yeah, because we don't have graphics. But the good thing was, she's like, "Oh, so should I just buy a Bitcoin and Ether spread?" And I'm like, "Yes, finally." Because in the previous weeks, I'm like, "Oh, there's this coin named after Elon Musk's uncle's best friend's cat's goldfish, and they reckon that's going to pump." I'm like, "Ugh." But anyway,
Mate,
so
what's that worth at the moment?
it's worth nothing. A lot of them have gone to absolute zero right now. But no, so if you want to make money, make money. If you want to gamble it, you're never going to get rich gambling. But speaking of gambling, I heard of a roulette technique.
Yeah.
Did I send it to
the
you?
video? Yeah.
So I'd like to try it one day.
I'd like to try it too. But you could just do it in small amounts. Like he used $1,000. You could do it with $100 and do the same thing if you wanted just to try the theory out.
So the theory is pick a colour, whether it be red or black.
Yeah.
And bet a small. So bet a tenth of whatever your total amount that you're willing to lose at a time. And if you lose, double the amount.
Yeah.
So if let's say we're doing $10 bets, and you lose, you put 20 next.
Yeah. Because with
and
the
then
way
if you
the
lose
roulette
again,
works,
if you lose again, you're going to put 40.
Yeah, because if you bet, so anyone who hasn't played roulette before, if you bet on red or black, it will double your money if you win. So if you put money down and it comes up the other one, you lose it all. But if you put it down and it comes up as a winner, you'll double your money. So the theory is that, if you bet the small amount, every time you win, obviously you increase your stack. Every time you lose, you just double your next bet, and you always bet on the same colour.
Yeah.
Because of,
statistical...
So it is statistically extremely unlikely that you will have the same colour come up more than 6 or 7 times in a row. So the theory is if you've got...
In the guy's video, he had 8.
Yeah.
That he won.
But there was 8 wins in a row. So he was very fortunate with that. But it was really interesting because the video basically shows him using $1,000 and he started with $15 bets. And he used the system and his goal was to make $1,000 profit. And he ended up getting it. So it would be really interesting to try
2.5 hours out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to try it. I think that's interesting. You know, I like it how he used one of those digital ones as opposed to like having that person sitting there looking at you going, really?
Yeah.
Is this what we're doing?
Yeah.
Because that would be really awkward. But
yeah, exactly.
So and if you are going to make bets like I do, you always win them because I'm smart and I make smart bets.
Well, see, funnily enough, he
always bets the under.
You say that you always bet like smart and you only bet things that you can win. Well, for a start, if I didn't tell you about that black can, you never would have collected it because you've just forgotten about it. But speaking of which, there was another bet that we'd put on last year, and for the life of me, I cannot remember what it was. Because I remember it was around the same time that we put this one on. It must have been late last year. I've got no idea what the bet was. And I've got no idea. So if you guys can remember it.
I reckon it's something around mandates.
Maybe.
Yeah. That's what we need. We need an app. We need an app that records the bet in time, stakes the coins.
Yeah, that'd be so handy if you just had some sort of app.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of not... Maybe they're only funny to me because I'm his dad, but a couple of funny Nate things that have happened in the last couple of weeks. So, first and foremost, just a really quick thing. I had a friend of mine who's pregnant at the moment, so this will be her first kid. She put a post up on Instagram the other day. And it was of her sitting there and her cat was like right in her face. And she was like, said something along the lines of like, personal space much? And I messaged her and I've gone, you think you have no personal space now? And she's done the whole, stop, like, don't you talk. Because obviously that's the sort of thing that anyone who's about to have kids, everyone who has kids says that to them. And you're like, whatever. So then anyway, I sent her a picture. And I'm like, so this is Nate standing inside my undies while I'm taking a shit.
Yeah.
Checkmate. Which the photo was actually an older photo, it was like a few weeks old, and then funnily enough, the next day Nate did it again. So I took a fresh photo and sent her the new one the next day too. So that was fun.
Isn't she lucky to receive that kind of content?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's the premium subscribers on our Patreon.
Yeah.
If there's a market in that, you guys
send Bitcoin to the address that's on there. I'll keep checking that. There's no funds there.
Yeah. Now another thing too. So remember, you guys would remember the amount of times I've talked about this on the pod. When Nate doesn't want to sleep, which is usually when he's sick now, like now he's actually pretty good at sleeping, but usually when he's sick, he just still won't sleep. Our go-to is taking him for a drive around the car.
Yeah. And
a few weeks ago, we were all pretty sick.
This should be the go-to.
Well, that's my go-to.
Be a man.
Yeah. Child services will come take him off me and I'll sleep way better. But
win-win.
Yeah. It's cheaper.
Yeah.
It's way cheaper. So, yeah, we throw him in the car because for him, the car just knocks him out. So, but the problem was we had to do it so many times lately because it wasn't even when he was sick, but it was things like now that you've got two kids, when Jake doesn't sleep and he's crying or screaming or something like that, it wakes Nate up. So it's this nightmare thing of Amanda will be trying to put Jake to sleep and Nate will be jealous that Jake's getting all the time with Amanda, so he tries to like steamroll his way into the room, like banging on the doors and shit, which then keeps Jake awake, which then obviously Nate's not getting what he wants, which is mum.
Yep.
And he doesn't realise he's making it worse. So then for the last couple of weeks, I've just been like grabbing Nate, throwing him in the car, taking him out, so Amanda can get Jake to sleep, he'll fall asleep in the car, that's all good. But the problem is we've done it so many times.
The problem is that the fuel's $2.20 a litre.
Number one, it is a fucking expensive way to get your kids to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, inflation's real.
Yeah.
But number two, we've been doing it so much lately that I think Nate is convinced that I work like a night shift job where I just drive around and eat fast food. Because the other night, for the first time in ages, I was going out at night time to catch up with a friend of mine. And normally when you like leave the house, Nate gets like a little upset because he wants to go outside and like you're obviously going to go and do something fun, so I want to come.
Yeah.
That's his attitude towards it. But then see, the other night, it's like, I don't know, 7:15 or something like that. Nate's just sitting there and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll see you later. And he's just like, bye, daddy, like was just fine with it because I feel like he's convinced that every night when he goes to sleep, I just go and jump in my car and drive around places and eat fast food.
Isn't that a great scam to have him believe? Well, is it? Yeah, man. Just
how am I going to use that?
Take up smoking and then just walk outside. Just
hey, bro. Hey, Amanda knows what I'm doing. I don't really have to lie to Nate.
That's interesting.
So yeah, that's a little bit interesting. And we've got one other thing too, which there's this sort of running theme through my life at the moment. And I think a lot of it comes down to parenting. A lot of it comes down to some other things that have happened in the world, which is this theme of like unintended consequences. So one of the things that has occurred a lot lately is Nate's at an age now where he's starting to get really independent. So they sort of say that around that like 2 to 3 age is where they start trying to break away from you and become their own little person. So they want to do things like dress themselves, pick what they wear. They don't want to hold hands with you to cross the road. They don't want to be carried everywhere, all that sort of stuff. So certain things way easier because he'll just be happy to cruise around with you now. But one of the problems is that he's now doing the thing where he wants to pick what he wears all the time, which is great, except for when it's like he'll be wearing a shirt with a dog on it, which he loves, but it's freezing cold. And you're like, hey, do you want to like put a jumper on, mate? And he's like, no, dog. And it's like, yeah, you'll still be wearing the dog shirt, but we're just going to put the jumper over the top. No, dog. We'll like go off over it. We'll freeze to death before he will...
Fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fashion is pain, right?
Yeah.
So Amanda devised this plan, which is she spilled water on him and was like, oh, your shirt's wet. We're going to take your shirt off. Which worked. It was golden, right? Golden. He takes the shirt straight off, new shirt on, jumper on, everything's all good. So she did it again a few days later when it was also pulling the same shit. Different shirt, had a shark on it this time.
Yeah.
And it worked to a T. But now, unintended consequence, if ever his shirt gets wet, oh, new shirt, it's coming straight off. Now that the kid's getting changed fucking 3 times a day. It's so fucking annoying now.
That's funny.
Yeah.
That's a funny thing that you're going to need to balance.
It's one of those things, it's like, for me, being a parent to a toddler who's trying to figure out the way the world works, you make the same mistakes with them as what programmers do when they're programming computers. Because you know how when we speak, we'll use things like sarcasm or nuance or whatever, whereas when you program into a computer, it does verbatim what you've said.
Yeah.
And oftentimes that has unintended consequences as well with like programmers. That's what we're sort of dealing with now with Nate. And it's really... It's funny, it's tricky at the same time because you're always thinking of like, what's the thing that I could say right now to make this situation better? But then you've got to think now 3 steps ahead of
what's the long term?
That's right. How is this going to be a problem in the future?
It's funny because I was talking to Dad today because he looked after Nate on Friday and he said like he's got so many more words now than before, and you got to start being careful what you say around him. Yeah. And I just started rubbing my hands together. I'm going to have Nate come home going, pap smear, pap smear, pap
Well,
smear.
do you know what the word was that he ended up saying a lot that afternoon when I went to pick him up?
What?
Monkeypox. Because monkeypox came up in conversation. And he just decided that would be a fun word. So he's like, monkeypox. Which is pretty cute.
That is cute.
Yeah.
That is cute. And I mean, they're the hot button topics of the
absolutely
of the time.
So
yet another disease effectively manufactured in the exact same place the last one was. But literally they came out and told us that their genome sequencing it for safety. So we should all be happy. Even though monkeypox has been around for ages in Africa and they could have gone there whenever they wanted to get it, but no, they just waited for it to go through the West. Because obviously the Western variant's better than the...
So we've jumped straight into Conspiracy Corner.
Or have we?
We have. Because I don't think that's right.
Okay.
For a few reasons. So to give you guys a bit of background. So monkeypox has become a worldwide phenomenon recently where most of us have never heard of it before. I'd never heard of monkeypox before the last few weeks. What's it been around for like 2-3 weeks now? And... essentially, monkeypox has just started affecting people in countries all over the world, all at the same time.
Gay guys from Spain.
Yeah, that's an element to it, which I'll get to, right?
Yeah.
So, obviously, the news has been reporting it like, this might be the next big thing, but a lot of them are saying like it's not going to be, it won't be a pandemic because it's not that contagious. Now, one of the guys that we've been following the entire pandemic is Dr. John Campbell, who had a video about this the other day where he was going through some releases from the National Institutes of Health in America, which was basically saying that monkeypox was being experimented on by them and the Wuhan Institute of Virology, also known as the birthplace of COVID-19, as of, I think it was September last year. Now... I feel like, and this is where I'm going to go conspiratorial, stick your tinfoil hats on, everyone. I think that, look, that could be correct. Absolutely could be. I just don't think it's true. I think that monkeypox is a potential side effect from the vaccine rollout. And the reason why the NIH has gone, oh yeah, no, we were just experimenting on it, and oh yeah, like Wuhan Institute of Virology, yeah, they were doing experiments too. Yeah, that's probably it. And when you also bring in the LGBTQI plus whatever community, because a lot of, not so much in Australia, maybe you've seen some, I haven't.
No.
But in the UK and the United States, a lot of the news reporting about it is about how it is transmitting primarily amongst gay men.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because it's also Pride Month.
Yeah, it started, I believe the first cases in the West were in like a Spanish gay bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is...
look, I'm actually more on your page now because it's the same pathway that is tried and true in the let's start with the gays, right? That's been done. That's been done before.
Also, using it during Pride Month when it's just like what we were talking about a few episodes ago when around Mother's Day. So blaming monkeypox on the gays during Pride Month is the best time for that to have the most explosive effect on the social.
True. Okay, well, so let's put a marker on the next. Let's see what the next thing is, and see how it times with other.
Yeah, because this is my other thing. Like, how long did it take before mainstream media or the NIH was reporting the Wuhan Institute? People didn't even know the Wuhan Institute of Virology even existed.
And what makes me like your theory is that they realised that they got away with releasing COVID from that lab.
Yep.
And nothing's going to happen of it. They got away with it.
That's right.
So we'd cop it again.
And the biggest thing is, we've spoken about this before, it's lying 101. You admit to a small thing to cover up a bigger thing. The fact that they came straight out and was just like, oh yes, it was the WIV again. It was that bloody Wuhan Institute of Virology again.
Yeah. Those rascals.
Yeah. Will they ever learn?
Yeah.
The fact they came out straight away means, I believe, that they just thrown out something that they know that red pillars like us will just latch onto and go, oh, see, they fucking do it again. They're doing it again.
Yeah. Because let's be real. If that had happened, so, okay, even if the Wuhan Institute didn't release it, or they weren't even, so like maybe it was brought up, but nothing was ever done with it, you'd think the boss would be there, all right, guys, we are working on breakfast cereals, right? Yeah. Just for a couple of years.
Yeah, that's right.
We're going to study what Kellogg's Special K does.
We need to make sure that no Cocoa Pops end up at a wet market just down the road.
We're just going to do we're going to do different water samples. We're going to just cool our jets just until this blows over.
Yeah.
Instead, they're going to like, hey, what's next, man? Monkeypox? Let's get on the monkeypox.
That's right. But that's the thing. Like, I feel like it's got all the hallmarks of the perfect smoke screen. You use what's that old thing of, it's not really the right saying, but they've created an enemy which everyone can blame. It's like Russia and Ukraine. Yeah. Like, look at what's happening at the moment in the Western world when it comes to inflation. You listen to anything out of America at the moment, they're calling it Putin's price hike.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, Putin and Russia, they're to blame for fucking everything, even though all this stuff was happening before they kicked off their invasion. Well, now the Wuhan Institute of Virology, they're the bad guy. So they're the ones that you can blame about any of this stuff as it comes up.
Interesting.
But what gets me about it, so you've got the hot button of the Wuhan Institute of Virology, which will satisfy the red pillars. You've got the hot button of blaming it on the gay dudes, which will blow up the leftists during Pride Month.
Yep.
And you got to think too, worldwide, we've had a massive shift towards the left side of politics. We just have in Australia.
Absolutely.
America has with the Democrats being elected. There's another country too, I think that... Anyway, I'm pretty sure...
Canada, just re-elected.
Should I? Yeah.
Nuts.
Captain Blackface.
Yeah.
So you got that hot button topic. Like, it's literally the perfect smokescreen. And what gets me about it is you go, why are there cases popping up all over the world if it's not that contagious and if it's from the gays? Surely not every single person who's got monkeypox went to that same Spanish sex party. And
goes off.
Sorry, it sounds like a cracker of a party.
Yeah.
It's too convenient for me. So I
think the club was called Ape Shit.
Club Ape Shit. Nice.
Yeah, look, I think you've got a very interesting take on it, and it was definitely too convenient to go and say, especially the way the NIH was so flippant about it.
Yeah.
They literally admitted that they doing gain of function research, which has been this whole
Yeah.
thing. They've admitted that they did it for this thing.
Yeah.
But we're not supposed to worry about it now. Oh, it's because you got away with it already.
Yeah,
You've got away with doing it the previous time, so they know they can get away with
it's
it.
It's like they think they've got it's like double jeopardy. Like, we can't be blamed for doing the same thing twice.
Yeah, insert the same excuses we used last time, this time.
Now, the other theory potentially too, which is what made me first start thinking about it being a vaccine adverse reaction and a cover-up for the vaccine adverse reactions, because that's what I feel the whole thing is. It's a cover-up for that. Could be dead wrong. Just a theory. Take your hats off. But the other thing too is that the NIH did say that they started doing these experiments in September last year, which again could be that they started to realise that there was vaccine adverse reactions happening. So then they were doing these experiments because the NIH's press release was about them testing, I can't remember what drug it was, but it was like trying to find treatments for it. And again, I just go, are they just pulling the exact same shit where they're creating a new, so we've got monkeypox now. But the good news is that we've just come out with this great new drug, which we can use to treat monkeypox. It's only $700 a treatment, like Paxlovid.
Well, no, I think they're using the smallpox vaccine as that's the fix, apparently, which is
because that's what we do now.
established.
So we take vaccines that were for a different virus and we give them to everyone to stop them from getting a different virus.
Yeah.
Even though they're similar, but they're different.
Yeah.
But it'll help.
Yeah.
It'll definitely help. I mean, it's like obviously talking about COVID. We're only in the most deadly year of our pandemic in Australia, and we're just keep fucking jabbing it up because some people are up to their 4th jabs now.
I'll tell you what, I've got some anecdotal evidence just in my group of some of these flu and colds and things going around. And jabbed people don't seem to get over it.
Yeah, I was literally having a conversation with a very good friend of mine today, who has, so they are jabbed, they got COVID early in the year and recovered okay, I think a couple of weeks probably to recover, but they've got something else this week and they're like, literally, I've never felt this bad in my life. Had a 5-day fever, got a COVID test, it wasn't COVID. And we even got a notice from our daycare centre where they're like, everything's going around, and they have fact sheets for COVID-19, what to look out for, RSV, what to look out for, the flu, what to look out for, because they're like, everyone's getting something.
Yeah,
and
Tasha school was 1/3 of the students were gone for like a week. They're all down.
Yeah,
and I know someone that's had he usually gets a cold. He gets it twice a year. He's got kids.
Yep.
Usually gets it twice a year. And he's like, but usually it's 5 to 7 days and it's done. He goes, this is 4 weeks and it's still not gone. And he's getting aches in joints and
And this happened in America last year too, I remember, and it would have been around their winter time, where they had RSV just sweep the country. Because RSV, I can't remember what it stands for, but it's basically like a cold, it's a respiratory type virus.
Yeah.
And was smashing kids, especially at schools. And what they blamed it on was obviously everyone's had the same experience with 2 years of being sanitised and away from each other. And everyone's saying that it's because they don't have any immunity.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a big factor.
Well, is that not what we said that last year? We knew that this thing was going to train your body to be so specific in one area that you're not going to be able to have a strong immune response to other stuff?
Well, there's been a lot of talk about that. There's been a lot of talk about how... So, I mean, look, when you just think of the mechanics of it, and this is something that you can go back and you can reference to official sources, but they say that you're not classified as fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after your current dose, whether it's your 2nd dose or your 3rd dose or your 4th dose or whatever. Why is that? Because during that 2-week period, your immune system's under so much pressure from the vaccine itself that you're more susceptible to get COVID. That would also mean that you're more susceptible to get anything else as well. Because you would know it too. If you're run down from something, you're more likely to get other colds and flus at the same time, right? So when you think that we're taking our most vulnerable people and we're jabbing them every 3 months now, and there is data that is showing things like people still having spike protein in their bodies 8 months after getting vaccinated.
Yeah.
Like there was a study out of Japan that showed that. So if we're jabbing people every 3 months, we're making sure that their immune system's constantly under pressure. Maybe it's not a coincidence that we're starting to propagate more of these other diseases. And obviously you can't blame the children for it because they're not, the children under 5, one's at daycare, they're not vaccinated. Maybe some of the kids at schools are.
So
I don't know what the numbers are off the top of my head.
Some of them are, some of them aren't. But I can tell you that, and again, this is anecdotally, all of the ones that have had it, have reported that there was nothing. It was like, no, we just tested positive. Like I went like that at home, and Mum tested me, and I tested positive, so I just had to stay home for a week. And
all the ones who had COVID.
Yeah.
Or when you said had it, I thought you meant the vaccine.
Oh, that yeah, I'm not sure what
what the split is.
Look, I think it'd be pretty high, and like Brisbane's very high.
Cucktown?
Yeah. I'd say it's high, but I'm not sure if that age group's even allowed to get it. What's the age?
5 to 11-year-olds.
Oh,
yeah. Which you would.
But again, if it if it reduced transmission, then yeah, it would make sense to give it to the kids. But it obviously doesn't, because we're just about to cross over that's like 7.5 million cases.
Yeah.
So with a vax rate that's going up, and we've got a case rate that's going up at the same rate, like now we knew we were going to have a spike coming into winter. We know that these respiratory things hit you in the cool weather, and it has been very cold.
Yeah.
I know we had really, really bad weather here for 3-4 weeks, where it just rained and that mold, and that does stuff to your immune system. I reckon that's a factor too. For sure. But
even just like, we've even had conditions which are sort of similar to like seasonal affective disorder. Because one of the things that I really, really wonder about COVID is how much of people's outcomes from COVID are based on their mentality when they actually get a positive diagnosis. Because in my opinion, the typical person who was running out to get vaccinated were the ones who had completely bought into the fear campaign around it, which is why they got vaccinated so quickly. This is a generalization. This may or may not be the case. I'm not talking about people who took it just because they had to for their jobs or anything like that. I'm saying the ones who were like lining up going, why can't I have my 3rd jab yet?
Which is, I physically saw with my own eyes, heaps of that.
That's right. So I wonder...
Arguments with nurses, like why they can't go get it right now.
Right.
Even though they already had 2, they wanted the 3rd, and they're like,
they could have had mine and given me that certificate. But those are the ones I just go, okay, so what happens in that person's brain when they get a positive diagnosis? And how much, like we know how much, if you mentally feel good every single day, if you do get exposed to like a cold or flu, you kick it like that. But if you are fearful every single day, and then like you've been so scared that you've run out, you're abusing nurses trying to get a 3rd dose because you're so scared of COVID, and then you get a positive test, I think mentally they just crash, and their body crashes with them.
I think there definitely is Jordan Peterson spoke about it, and he said, we will never know...
Can you do it in his accent?
Oh. We'll never know what the total outcomes will be until we get to the end, we accumulate all the other data that we need. Like, we don't know what lockdowns did. We don't know what the economic ramifications. We don't know how many deaths have been attributed to economic issues. We don't know how many deaths are attributed to the stress of the media just blurting it out there, having that red virus in the back. We're not counting any of that stuff. We're counting this 8,722 number of Australian deaths.
Yeah. But we do know that all-cause mortality has gone up and has been steadily increasing since October last year in Australia. And that's all causes. So we've had a slight uptick in COVID deaths. That doesn't account for all of the other reasons why all-cause mortality has increased as well. Which again, like it could have nothing to do with the pandemic.
It could have nothing to do with it, but I think you're right. I think there is definitely a generalised demographic of people who lean on the jab as their health.
That's right. It's their crutch.
Crutch is not even the right word.
It's the Band-Aid. It's
not even the Band-Aid.
It's diet shake.
It's the be-all and end-all. They think that that's what they need to do to remain safe.
But again, like, I don't even think it's just that, because you have to remember, like, they're the same people who are scared to be next to an unvaccinated person. So they clearly don't believe the product actually does anything.
Yeah.
If you're like, this is what really, really concerns me about society is, so I'm starting to have some conversations with some of these people, which I'm considering like breakthrough conversations now, because again, so we're in year 3 now, and you have this conversation with them and you go, guys, we're having the worst year so far of the pandemic, cases are through the roof, and you can blame it on them opening up the country too soon if you want. That's perfectly fine. You can do that. Because obviously the more people circulating around, the more transmission you're going to get. Yeah, fair enough. But you got to remember, the whole fucking country was like 95% double dose jabbed at that point. So the jabs don't work.
Yeah.
They just don't. I'm sorry.
What metric are they using to say that it does?
Maybe they did off the first strain which they were based off of.
Yep.
But they don't work. They don't. And you cannot tell me that the jabs are working when we've had more deaths this year in the first 5 months of the year compared to every other year so far for the pandemic.
Yeah.
When Omicron, by all accounts, is a more mild version of the illness.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot say that the vaccines work because they don't. So at best, they do nothing. At worst,
they do damage.
And
all-cause mortality is the concern.
That's right.
When you look at all-cause mortality.
Yeah, and the issue is too, and like the amount of research I've put into this, the mechanism around all of the different adverse events that people are experiencing makes perfect sense to me. And to explain it how I believe it's being attributed, because obviously it's not just myocarditis. It's like people are getting all sorts of adverse events.
Yeah, and there's pages and pages of potential adverse events, which Pfizer knew about, which the companies know about.
And it all starts here for me. So with the way that the vaccines were explained to us that they work, is they were injected intramuscularly into your shoulder muscle, and that was supposed to stay there. And it doesn't. And that's been proven. It doesn't just stay in your shoulder muscle.
Yeah.
So what's then happening is the mRNA, which is encapsulated in a lipid nanoparticle. So lipid's like a fatty nanoparticle, because the mRNA, it's pretty, unstable. So it'll degrade very quickly in your body without something to protect it. So cover it in this like lipid nanoparticle. And what they're showing is that is moving around people's bodies. Now, how does the mRNA technology work? Well, when it comes into contact with your cells, it inserts itself into your cell, and it basically programs that cell to be able to produce spike protein. When that cell produces spike protein, your immune system recognizes spike protein as a foreign agent or whatever, and it attacks it. And then the idea is that then your body will recognize the spike protein when it comes into contact with it in the wild, and it'll have an immune response. That was the idea around it. But think about it this way. You are literally instructing your body's own cells to create spike protein. There is no known time frame that these cells stop producing. And really, the cells stopping producing would all come down to when your body removes those cells itself.
Yeah.
So, and I saw there was a Senate estimates hearing where Senator Jared Rennick, he's the man when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah, he's been going ham.
Was grilling John Skerritt, the head of the TGA, about this exact thing.
Yeah.
And Rennick asked him, he goes, how long are the cells producing the spike protein? And Skerritt does what all of these wankers do, and tries to use technical language to move the point to something else. So he just goes, the mRNA is really unstable and it breaks down within 24 to 48 hours. That wasn't the question. The question was, how long are these cells producing spike protein?
Yeah.
Like, the mRNA is gone. It's fine. But it's already reprogrammed that cell to produce spike protein. Like we said, there's that study out of Japan that showed that some people were still having free-floating spike protein in their bodies 8 months after being jabbed. So when you consider this, so imagine that you've been injected. It is pot luck where that mRNA is able to travel to in your body. Mm-hmm. So it might be your heart, it might be your lungs, it might be your brain, it might be your ovaries, right? It's pot luck. And then when it gets there, it inserts itself into your into your cells, and your cells start producing spike protein. So your body's immune system then attacks the spike protein because it's a foreign agent, and then it goes, where is this coming from? look at these rogue cells that are producing spike protein. So it attacks your own body's cells.
Yeah.
So what I believe we are seeing with these adverse events is not only cytotoxic damage from the spike protein itself that your body is producing because it has been shown to be cytotoxic, but autoimmune issues when your immune system is attacking your own body's cells in wherever the mRNA has landed in your body. It makes sense. I mean, unfortunately,
that's it. It's what a lot of red pill guys have been saying and that weren't allowed to say, and you know, the problem of not being able to talk about it is, if there was a conversation, a real conversation about it, then people would be more open to the idea that maybe it isn't working, and we could actually have a discussion about it.
That's right.
Because I'm still amazed that you could talk to someone that's had horrible COVID outcomes, fully vaccinated, and then you go, so your vaccine didn't do anything, and they're like, oh no, it'd be much worse if it did. I wish I could sell a product.
Yeah.
I wish I could sell a product where no matter what the outcome was, including death, no matter what the outcome was, thumbs up.
That's right.
I wish I could do that.
That's right. And look, maybe
I'll just pull the world tracker up. And they've got some new deaths, and they're highlighted in red because most of them are actually 0. But the outliers, so the ones that have a big kick: South Korea 9, Japan.
So sorry, what are these deaths?
Deaths, COVID deaths.
So when you're saying outliers and you said 9, was it just 9 deaths? Or?
9 deaths.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Japan 35, Australia 60. Thailand 30.
And what are these numbers? These daily numbers?
This is a daily number.
Okay.
This is a daily number.
So sorry, I kept interrupting. Go through those countries again. South
Korea 9.
Extremely highly vaccinated.
On 35,000 cases. Japan 35 deaths on 32,000 cases.
Okay.
Australia 60. We haven't listed how many cases.
Because we've got fucking heaps of them.
Yeah. Thailand 30 on 3,000 cases.
Wow, okay. That could be a healthcare issue as well.
Could be. DPRK. Korea. No, is that North Korea? 1. Taiwan.
Sorry, isn't that the Democratic People's Republic of Korea?
Yeah.
Yeah. DPRK.
Yeah. Taiwan 152.
You mean China?
No. John Cena. New Zealand 9. And they're the only ones. Now, the one that I wanted to check was Gibraltar. Gibraltar. This is the one I like to look at. And
so Gibraltar's like the most highly / over-vaccinated country on the planet. They were the first one to reach a over 100% vaccination rate, because not only did every single citizen of the country get vaccinated, but the government was actually paying for foreign nationals who were working in the country to get vaccinated too. So they're a very interesting test case.
Yeah, so I just had it, 170. Here we go. Okay, so if I can get the other stuff up here. Total deaths. So they've had 102 deaths, but
their population is like 40,000 people, isn't it?
Yeah. So their deaths. Okay. So all right. So is it fair to say that deaths per million people?
Yeah.
Is a great one to go off?
Yep.
Okay. Before I read you that number, what's another country that we should compare it to?
Or compare it to Australia.
Okay. So they're 3,000 deaths per million. 3,029.
Right.
Okay. So let's go to Australia. Australia. Deaths per 1 million, 335.
Wow.
10 times more.
Yeah.
10 times more and they are, I mean, you could pull up on your phone to see what their vax is. They're like...
They're like I said, they're over 100% because the entire population's vaccinated, and the government, it was mandatory if you were a foreign national working there that you had to be vaccinated too, and the government paid for it. So I remember when they first hit the stats, they were at like 140% double dose vaccinated because it was the foreign nationals they'd vaccinated too.
See, I've ordered it in the deaths per million. The worst is Peru, which is interesting given we thought that they were a ivermectin country. Bulgaria, Bosnia, Hungary. North Macedonia, Montenegro, Georgia, Croatia, Czechia, Slovakia, Romania, Lithuania. Man, don't have ear. Don't finish in ear.
Well, the thing that stands out to me at the beginning is I look at it and I go, what's the medical system like in
USA? 3,087.
Yeah, deaths per million.
So, okay, where's the UK then?
See, USA I wouldn't actually look at too hard because they're not the most highly vaccinated because they're a state by state thing. If you're a blue state, you're highly vaccinated. If you're a red state, you're not. I think the overall numbers in the US is only like 50 or 60% of people are at least a 2-dose vaccinated. Like it's actually a little bit low when you base it off the whole country.
Vatican City's going all right. No deaths.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, they got God on their side.
Yeah. Nauru? None. Nauru?
Yeah. No. Also, no reporting probably.
No, there's 1,187 cases reported.
Yeah, right. No deaths?
What's
Nauru's vaccination rate?
Western Sahara. Actually, the DPRK is doing pretty good. Apparently, if you ask them. No, but look.
At the end of the day, we can break down the numbers as much as you want, but the reality is the vaccine's not doing anything to prevent transmission or bad outcomes. It's just not.
I just want someone to show me some data that says that it works, because I can't.
But because the only data they show you is they go, so these are the amount of cases and deaths we've had, and these are the amount of cases and deaths that our computer modelling shows we would have had if we didn't do the vaccination program.
Okay, it's funny you say the modelling thing, because I was listening to a podcast that was about financial markets.
Mm-hmm. I think I've listened to the same thing.
And it was about how...
It was the modelling for the climate catastrophe and its effect on economic markets. And what was... I think this was this the guy... Was this the head of HSBC Bank?
Yes. I love that guy.
Yeah, I know. So he was talking about it, and he thought it was behind the scenes, not being recorded. So he was talking about it quite flippantly. And basically, the way that they're trying to push this green revolution and based on climate change is through these economic models. The exact same push that we got with the COVID shit. Like, we received all these fucking models during
Anastasia
the pandemic.
Palaszczuk's Twitter account talked about how we thought we were going to have 440,000 deaths, and we've only had 400. Look how good we've done.
Yeah, that's right.
Your model sucks.
That's right. Either your model's just either wrong or you're just a fucking liar.
Yeah.
But it's probably the second one. But what this head of the HSBC Bank was saying was that when you look at these financial models, how they're like, oh, this is what the climate crisis is going to cost, and like there's going to be a massive catastrophic effect on the economies, and that's going to cause this amount of deaths because obviously when the economy's not going good, then the poor people die, and blah 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 blah. What they don't show you is when you actually read through how the model is created, they also factor in a massive increase to the interest rates, and to a reserve rate of 20%.
Yeah.
Now, our reserve rate's what at the moment? Is it 1% now?
Not even. I think is it 0.75?
Okay, it's somewhere around 1%.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in other words, 20 times higher is factored into the fucking climate catastrophe models to get the outcome that they need to then try to push through all of this green investment in renewables, etc.
And let's be honest. 99.9% of the population only hears the highlight.
That's right. Absolutely. And that's why we've had this massive push towards the Greens, for example. Yeah. So the Greens was one of the people that I thought might have it in for me. If it wasn't Mother Nature, I reckon it's the Greens have animatronic drones that they're attacking with. Yeah. Obviously, the ticks are fucking tracking devices. Yeah. Because I often go out of reception at work.
Yeah, and it's a 5G phone. Yeah.
Well, I thought maybe as well, maybe they have turned the 5G on, and that's why the fucking animals are going crazy and attacking people, trying to rip out eyes at the servo. But that's the thing. So, and an interesting point on this, I actually saw something today or yesterday about how, so now the Labor government's in, which is obviously very pro-renewables and green energy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Well, it's kind of, maybe it's that theory that you've had a million times before that you've shared on the podcast, how when people are running for election and they go, yeah, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do all the right things and it's going to be great, vote for me. And then they get him and then the guy from the back room comes out and puts the fucking, the book on the desk.
The dossier.
Yep. This is how the world really works. And then they read it and they go, oh, fuck, we can't do any of those things.
Yeah.
And then everything changes. Well,
which is what they've done with the minimum wage.
kind of with minimum wage, but also the key one that I was going to talk about was them supporting increasing energy production from coal-fired power stations.
Oh, I haven't heard this.
So I think I only saw this today. So Labor, because we are having energy issues, and one of the how many times we mentioned even before all this stuff about the main cost of business in Australia is energy costs, right? Whether that's fuel or electricity, energy is one of the main drivers of inflation at the moment because everything is being affected by it. So Labor, which was Greens powered in the past, are now looking at increasing energy production from coal-fired power stations because of the energy crisis we're in, which I think is the sensible thing to do. I'm happy to see them doing that. It's just not what their voters would have been expecting them to do when they voted into government.
Look, for sure. Something I will say about, like, I want to talk about my first couple of weeks under a Labor government. Mm-hmm. I can't remember who's the finance minister for Labor. That he's been going on ABC News regularly.
Okay.
And I like him.
Okay.
He seems very genuine, very authentic, as opposed to like when Frydenberg went up there.
What colour is he?
White man.
White man, okay, cool.
Frydenberg would always try and spin it and just try to go to, and then they'd just stop coming on ABC.
Yeah.
Right? But this guy was like, no, look, we've inherited this, so we need to do this, this, and this, and yes, this part's going to hurt. Mm-hmm. And everything kind of makes sense, the way he says it makes sense, and I felt comfortable with him at the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, so that was something that's something I have liked.
Something for me that I feel like is going to be a really refreshing difference at the moment, and this is probably I don't know if everyone feels the same way, but like Scott Morrison was often joked about called Scotty from marketing because he's just a salesman.
Yep.
And he's very intelligent, but he's a slime ball salesperson. Everything was a sales pitch.
Yeah.
And I feel like Frydenberg was put in a position where he was being told to do the same thing. Because I feel like they'd be sitting there going, okay, Frydenberg's going to be appearing on the Today Show and ScoMo's giving him word tracks, right? Like you would in a sales manager to salesperson relationship. ScoMo's giving him the word tracks that he wants Frydenberg to go. Yeah. And when they bring this up, will you attack Labor for that? And there's a real sales spinny sort of thing. And I just don't feel like we're going to be copping that from Albanese and whoever that... Because I can't remember his name, but I remember listening to that new treasurer speak, and I've had the same feeling as you.
Yeah.
So I think that will be refreshing.
And the fact that he's on ABC talking about it. Like was it not crazy to think that you've got a public broadcaster that the politicians never went on?
That's right.
Yeah, it's crazy. But it kind of ties in... I listened to this amazing podcast today. It's another PBD podcast one. The father of quantitative easing, Richard Werner.
Were you? Super interesting.
The thing I liked about it, and this is something I'd been whinging about under the Liberals for years, and I thought it was me being petty and only trying to look after myself, but he kind of nailed it for me, which was... When banks, so the creation of money is through loans. Once a bank loans money, that's how money's created. Okay.
So, sorry, can you actually just slow down and explain that for people? Because I found that point really interesting.
Okay.
So in this podcast, what he discusses is people think that money is created by governments and that governments just print money, and that's how more currency becomes available in a market. But what this guy was talking about, and what's his background again? Have you heard his name there?
His name is Richard Werner.
Richard Werner. So what he was explaining was that the way that money is actually created and injected into the economy is actually by banks loaning money. And this actually makes a lot of sense because banks are told that they have to have minimum capital requirements depending on the country. I think in Australia it was like 10% or something, and when the Banking Royal Commission came through, they put it up. So what that means...
No, I don't think he said it was none.
No, not in Australia. In the UK, it's none.
Yeah.
But they didn't specifically mention Australia. But because I remember this when the Royal Commission came through, that they actually increased the capital requirements of the lenders. And so essentially this is what happens, right? So let's say that you're a bank and you're lending people money to buy houses or businesses or whatever the case may be. And he primarily talks about buying properties. The banks are actually lending out more money than they have in hand?
No, let me explain it.
Okay.
Because the step before that. So the way a traditional bank used to work is you deposited cash. Mm-hmm. The people would deposit cash into a bank. Cool. The bank would pay, let's say, 3% interest on the deposits. Yep. And then what you could do is you could then loan that money out for 6%, so the bank can make 3%.
Yep.
That was the old school way. That was back when we had the gold standard, where every dollar was backed by a physical piece of gold.
Yep.
Then we moved to a place where moved to create more. The problem with that is that it's deflationary.
Yeah.
No one wants to spend it. The velocity of the money slows.
That's right.
And therefore your economy doesn't move. So the way to ramp the economy up is to have more money.
Yep.
So they changed it so that for every dollar that was put in, the bank could loan out a multiple of that dollar.
That's right.
And in some cases, it's like 9 times or 90 times. Mm-hmm. So if you put $1 into the bank, that bank goes, sweet, I'll now loan it out 10 times at an interest rate, and they've effectively created money.
Yeah, because the idea from the bank's perspective is they'll always have enough income coming in from those loans that if someone comes in and goes, I want to withdraw my money now, they can take that money in the pool of resources and give it to that one
which is a
particular
Ponzi
person,
scheme.
because not everyone's going to do it at the same time.
Yeah, it's called a bank run.
It's 100% a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah. So now what the Liberals have done over all this time is allowed ridiculous amount of money creation through property.
That's right.
I've been whinging about it for ages.
Yeah.
Why is it so easy to get a home loan and so hard to get a business loan? Mm-hmm. And that's what this guy was saying, is that countries that have done it well have lots of smaller banks that loan to businesses, because businesses get a return.
That's right.
Whereas if on a home loan, you don't necessarily get a return. You've purchased an asset. But if you're funding the creation of business, you are getting income. You're getting expansion. You're getting a proper economic expansion.
Yeah. So
and
just to explain that a bit better for people too. What the issue is that if you are only primarily funding, so remember, with funding, every time you fund someone, you're creating that money, right? You're creating money out of nothing and putting it into the economy. So when you're only funding for assets like properties, what's that doing? That is just increasing the cost of properties. That's all it's doing.
Yeah, and it does nothing to the economy.
That's right. Whereas if you are funding a business, what does that do? The business grows, they can employ more people. Yep. It has a positive, it actually puts money into the economy, which starts
and increases the velocity of that money.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's exactly right.
So now I had always thought, because since I've had my business, the banks have given me nothing.
Yeah.
Even when this COVID support thing came through, the Libs said that they're going to do 50% bank backed loans, and they had a list of the banks. I went into the bank. They did not even let me go to an application stage. Just said, no, we're not doing them. We're not doing them. So
they literally said that to you. I remember you saying that, because they didn't just say, we are not lending you money, sir. Yeah. They literally said, we're not doing those loans.
Yeah. But if you wanted to go and refinance your home loan or buy a house, step this way, grab a seat, and I've always, since that moment, I'm like, that's crazy to think that, the faster you can transact that money, the faster the velocity, the higher the velocity of that money, the better for the economy it is. Because if they loan me the money, I buy more cars from more people. Now I need more me's to sell those cars, so I employ more me's. They pay tax. Yep. I pay tax.
Yep. They earn money, which they then go and spend on goods and services elsewhere, which puts that money into other people's pockets. And
something
they
he said,
improve their businesses and everything grows.
Whereas all the Libs did here was pump property price.
Yep.
And he gave money to these big dudes, all the big end of town, which he illustrated
through the JobKeeper program.
He talked about how the employment numbers of who employs most people is small business.
That's right.
Small business has the majority. Although you look at this big company and you go, oh, they've got 4,000 employees. All the businesses that are attached to them have far more than 4,000 employees. Right. And it was nice to get someone sort of quantifying my experience.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping now that Labor, by rights, shouldn't they do that? Shouldn't they be like? Shouldn't they talk about being sort of anti-big multinationals?
Mm-hmm.
Well, then can they kick something our way? Can they make it a bit easier for the small business people?
And look, I hope that that's the case. I really do.
And I don't want to sound like I'm just looking at it for me, right?
Yeah.
But I know the benefits to everyone.
Yeah.
When you do it.
Exactly. And like the thing is, I don't think you're not being selfish because you'd be saying the same thing if you were still working at a dealership.
Yeah, for
right?
sure.
Because at the end of the day, like you said, what you said is correct. The politicians have spoken about it forever. Small business is the lifeblood of this country, always has been, and always should be. Now, there's been a lot of moves made in the last few years, which is making it fucking hard for that to be the case. But we can recover from this with the right policies.
Sure.
If you have more support in the small business sector, it has a deflationary effect, because what we're experiencing at the moment, obviously, there's a lot of factors that are causing inflation at the moment. One key factor is lack of competition. So if you had on every fucking corner next to Woolies and Coles, a greengrocers, a butcher's, like a community-based thing, and yet people had more options, there is more pressure on Woolies and Coles to decrease their prices. When, unfortunately, a lot of those businesses went bust over the last 2 or 3 years, well, now there's no pressure on the big boys. So that's why the cost of everything's also gone up. It's another factor. It's not everything, but it is another factor. And if you have more support for small business, number one, people can actually get out of that dead shit job and go and start their own small business and do what you've done and live your dream and enjoy life and make good money at the same time. Yeah. It does put more money in the economy. It gives people more options. It's better for society to do that.
Oh, but, totally.
Like, because look at, like we've spoken about before, what happened with JobKeeper. Like, those stories that you heard. I can't remember if it was like Nick Scarley or, again, I don't want to get the
Harvey Norman was the big one.
Yeah, I know, but there was one really egregious one, and I don't want to get the company wrong and be, libelous or anything. Yeah. But there was a really big one where, if I remember it correctly, they got somewhere in the vicinity, I think it was like they got $3 million in JobKeeper funding from the government, and then the company itself paid out a dividend payment to its shareholders totaling $3 million in the same year, and the owner of the company had 60 to 65% of the shares. So in other words, he pocketed $2 million worth of JobKeeper money. So there was a green
I'm sure that there was
like
that stuff that happened. Yeah,
that's right. And so that is the hope that hopefully Labor does do what they've said they would do for a long period of time. Stop putting money in the pockets of their big business mates and start putting it in the grassroots.
I'd had a conversation with someone about the JobKeeper, the payment, and I think I'd even had the argument with you. You thought the company should have to pay the money back, and I was like, no, they shouldn't, because they played amongst on the rules, and they play by the rules. The rules are created. They play by the rules. But it's mental to think that a car dealer could have entered 2 different lines into that policy to make it like, hey, if your taxable income increased by anything by more than 1.1%, then we have the ability to claw it back, or put some provisions in there to say, like, yes, I know we had to get it out fast.
Yeah.
But I feel like it could have been 20 more minutes with sitting with the lawyers to go, hey guys, let's not get rorted by this.
Yeah.
So it's almost as if and it doesn't seem unreasonable to think that it was on purposely rorted. It was a great way to...
100%. And I was having a conversation during the week where I'm like, the thing that I've come to realise, and it's not Liberal, it's not Labor.
It's people. It's the human condition.
And it's the fact that government itself is a fucking rort.
Yeah.
The whole thing's a rort. Like, there's heaps of roadworks at the moment up on Tambry Mountain. Heaps of them. And I was sitting with one of the boys, we were driving the ute the other day, and we kept getting stuck in these fucking roadworks, which, number one, very big cost of productivity, which my boss who'll be listening to this quite rightfully knows and is upset about. But anyway, we're sitting there in these roadworks, and then as you drive through them, and we look around, and we're like, look, there's 8 dudes standing there while one person's doing something. And he's a bit younger, and I was saying, this is the problem with the public service. The public service, there if this was a business trying to repair this patch of road and sell it for a profit, there would be one bloke there doing the work, one person supervising to make sure they don't fuck themselves over, and the other 6 people would be unemployed. That's how a private business would do it. And this has always been the problem with government and public sector work, is that they aren't a business trying to stay on their own 2 feet and balance the books economically, because there's this taxpayer paycheck that just keeps coming in.
Unlimited checkbook.
That's right. So, and then you go, okay, like, and this, I think we've had this conversation recently, where in your mind, you've just thought this has been incompetence forever. Whereas now I've sort of come around to the fact that I think it's willful incompetence, because it is a rort and it puts money in people's pockets. And if you're in the position where you get to control the decisions that are made for all of these different public sector things, where you're funneling taxpayer money into whatever you want, it's so easy to rort. It's so easy.
Well, I would say before I've said it's incompetence, I would always have said that people are as loyal as their options. And when their options, their option is to rort a system, they will rort it, because that's what the human condition does. And unfortunately, our system is not robust enough to
and the concern on that rorting front that I do have with the Labor government is the amount of power the unions have over them. And there may be some systemic rorting that comes, or that gets thrown, chuck the union.
There's definitely going to be rorting, 100%.
Of course.
But it's about...
It's about, overall, is the corruption going up or down under a Labor government? We hope that it will go down. And it'll be interesting to see. Now, what will be interesting is whether or not they actually do come to the party with their federal ICAC like they promised in the election, like the Libs promised before last election, which never materialised.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't think so. Can I go to some good news?
Yeah.
So one of the
if you've made it this long, thank you.
Yeah, so let's give you some good news. Maybe I should cut this up as a clip just to throw it out there, just in case the people who don't hang around. But the World Economic Forum had their meeting in Davos last week, and
nice of them to use a really rich place to meet up, to fly their private jets to, as opposed to, like, if they want to benefit the world, you'd think they'd go to somewhere like Rwanda or Somalia.
But you go to one of the richest places in the world where you all fly in on your private jets, where you talk about climate change and how everyone needs to use less carbon and eat bugs for the benefit of the world. Anyway, at the same time, there was also I can't remember what it's called, the World Health Assembly, I think is what it's called.
I know this one.
Right. So this is the meeting that was occurring where all the major leaders of the members of the World Health Organization, the member countries, the nation heads were going to vote on the amendments to the international health regulations. So what was being thrown up as an option was that they wanted to change the international health regulations to literally state that for every member country, the World Health Organization could declare a pandemic. So sort of like Victoria. They can declare a pandemic whenever they want.
Yep.
And then they would be given absolute power over every member country when it comes to the response
the pandemic response.
Pandemic response. And their pandemic rules, their regulations include mandatory vaccination, lockdowns, the works. So one of the things that we mentioned in the lead up to the election was that both the heads of the major parties, both Libs and Labor, said, or at least indicated, that they were going to be signing us up for that program. And they did.
Really?
The Labor government voted for it. Right? Albanese voted for it. The US voted for it. The UK voted for it. Everyone who is part of the Western world's COVID pandemic fuckery, they're all for it. Yeah, they're all for it. However, it required unanimous consent from all the member nations. And thanks to our African brothers, there's like 48 different countries in Africa that told them to go fuck themselves. Brazil... Bolsonaro from Brazil, the Brazilian president, said, if you guys pull this shit, we're out of the World Health Organization. Like, we're leaving.
Really?
Yeah, so it was the African nations which went...
Thank you. Well, the African nations were the ones with the best results there too. Like in that.
Yeah. Now, look, there's a lot of factors around that too. Yeah. Usually it's lower median age in the population, because obviously young people handle COVID better.
It's a bit hard to get a jab in your arm when you've got no arm.
Yeah, it was that too. But yeah, so thankfully, even though our own country tried to sell us out to the World Health Organization, they were thwarted in their attempts by the Africans. So,
thank you, Africa.
Yeah, thank you, Africa.
Yeah. They cleared the veins down in Africa.
Well, don't you find it funny how as soon as that happens, well, now we're talking monkeypox, and they're like, oh, you can get monkeypox in Africa. Blame those motherfuckers.
And on that note,
that's the good news. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. We'll see you next RDO.
bye.